Hi, my name is Abby Magnuson, and this is my midterm documentary presentation for Communications 212. We were assigned to pick a movie from a list and relate it to three key terms from our units. So the first term that I chose was the definition of self-esteem. The second from Unit 2 was the definition of self-disclosure. And the third was the definition of love. And I chose to do one of my favorite movies of all time, Forrest Gump. Now, Forrest Gump is such a beautiful movie because it's so heartfelt, and it's about a simple man who has such a hand in just different things throughout history, such as the Bubblegum Shrimp Company. He was in the war. Just how much he touched people's lives without really even knowing it. However, what people kind of forget about is Jenny's backstory. And people sometimes think that Jenny is she uses Forrest. She's, for lack of a better terms, kind of a slut. And I think there's more to it than that. And so for this documentary, I'm going to be focusing not on Forrest's point of view, but on Jenny's. And so, and basically the important facets of her and her life. So from Unit 1, the definition of self-esteem is the positive or negative evaluations we have of ourselves. So say if someone like myself or Jenny has low self-esteem coming from trauma or just a bad upbringing or a bad backstory, we're not going to see anything positive in what we're doing. We're going to see the negatives. We're going to see the negatives in communication. We're going to think of ourselves as less than we are. And that's what happens with Jenny. And that's why she chooses to be a nude singer or a drug addict or anything else. She's trying to find any source of happiness in any way that she can because she already lives life so negatively. And I think that's why Forrest is so important to her, because he doesn't see any bad traits in her. He only sees the good, regardless of what she does. He sees the good person in her, and in a way almost understands why she does the things that she does. And so, I mean, that's the only way that sometimes people can feel good. It's all about survival. If you have low self-esteem, you're going to think of everything as in a negative light. And I think that's the thing. I mean, that's happened with me. That happened with Jenny. It's how people with low self-esteem cope. And so then in Unit 2, I chose the definition of self-disclosure, which is basically intentionally revealing personal aspects about your life to people who would otherwise not know them. And self-disclosure does not always have to be the full story. Sometimes it can just be details here and there. And I think that that's kind of a lot of why Jenny is so close with Forrest as well, is because he has been there through everything, and she'll tell him details as much as he needs to know, such as when they were kids and they went to her house and started throwing rocks at the windows. And that was years ago, but when they were kids, they went there and she could hear her dad inside, and they ran into the corn maze and hid. And so obviously what we can defer from that is that her father was either sexually or physically abusive or both. And that kind of created her low self-esteem issues, her just in general. I mean, what she thinks of herself and what she thinks of the world. And I think that's really important with Forrest and Jenny's perspective on it, because he doesn't ask a whole lot of questions. He's just there. And she offers information when she sees fit. Same with when she had Forrest as child. I mean, she waited until she thought the time was right because she didn't want to impeach on his life because he was doing so well. And so she just did what she thought was best and kind of went from there. I mean, with anyone with a bad backstory can tell you is you have to make that decision of whether or not to disclose and when is the right time. It's all about timing. And so it's all about the details that you share. And it's not about the full story. It's just about the intimacy and the trust that comes from bringing someone into that part of your life. And so finally, the third definition, and the most important one, of course, is love. And that applies to Jenny and Forrest in such a innocent way. it's not so much about the physical aspect, it's about he loves her in such a strong way that she can do no wrong. She's always his Jenny. And she loves him in such a protective way. I mean, she it's the only way she knew how, but she made sure that he was always safe. She never allowed somebody to talk bad about him. She never allowed somebody to hurt him in any way because she loved him. And even though she left, I mean, I've done the same thing. If I feel that I do not deserve someone love like Jenny did with Forrest, the only plausible explanation is to leave for their safety. And sometimes it's not always the right way, but it's just how life works and how people cope with things when they don't understand that kind of unconditional love that Forrest gives Jenny. And it's just beautiful because they both love each other in such different ways, but such similar ways. I think that says a lot about the movie in general. And these terms, honestly, have truly shown me the different aspects of someone's life. I mean, you look at, on the surface, Jenny seems to be a terrible person, but when you dig deeper and delve into terms such as self-esteem, self-disclosure, you see that she's not a terrible person. She's doing what she can to survive, and she's living the only life that she knows. And so, I mean, she is someone who is damaged and is trying to love the best way that she can, just like anybody else, just like myself, just like anyone with a bad past. And so this has been my presentation on Forrest Gump with interpersonal communication terms and key parts.